we go. So it's good to be together, the three of us, las tres mujeres.
Las tres mujeres. Yes, I love it. How is everyone doing? How are you, Sharon?
Good. I had a horrific lung thing for weeks.
Okay. Oh boy.
And so, yeah, I'm feeling so much better. And it
Oh,
was deep and generational. And so, real profound with clearing grief and yeah, a lot of juicy
yeah,
stuff.
All the juicy stuff, and it all clears out. You have to take time to clear it, sustain the environment so that you are clearing out what needs to be cleared out energetically, physically, emotionally,
yeah.
metaphysically, all that component, right?
Well, the good thing is you guys had a heat wave up there, northwest, right?
Oh,
We
So that is
did.
also sweating out a lot of toxins. I noticed that whenever I go to Mexico, there's so much that I can really get rid of. And it's not only the sweat and, ballast, I don't know, residues that we have in our body, but it's also the feeling, the emotional release that we have when we sweat out a lot and do hard work in the garden, maybe.
absolutely.
Yeah, I actually spoke to quite a few people after who had bronchial things. So, here you're speaking about it's regional, it's land place based, and
Mm,
then it's larger,
mm.
much larger. And I always sort of bristled previously when I would hear the comment of, as you get older, it takes longer to heal. And I'd be like,
I hear that also, but I would ignore it also.
and I
Yeah.
actually find I want to slow down in the healing process to really do it fully. And I don't mean like done, gone forever. I'm not one of those people. I know things have cycles and seasons, but I want to feel it. I want to really not rush through just to get better.
And cells need their time to recover in all of the body parts. I'm the same. I'm very fast. So I always hit myself. I had injuries. And once I got more mature and old, I just slowed down and I'm more like aware of my body and more supportive, I would say. So I
Yes.
totally see what you mean.
Yeah. And how are both of you?
Yeah, good. We already were jumping in excited. She rushed me
Yes.
like a minute or so before, and yeah, these are exciting times. I can't reel myself in.
Exactly. It's exciting. And then, when we share, when you share excitement, that's the energy of excitement. And it helps not only us three, but then it brings all that uh, extra knowledge in, and you're channeling information that people would like to hear, and people should hear as well if they're open to it, right?
Right.
And so I really like the topic today. I'm very excited about it. And what can we jump into today? What is our first question?
Well,
This is so good.
like a bird's eye view. So we made it ritual and ceremony. And then, I mean, I think maybe we can drizzle apart what is ceremony, what is ritual. And for my part, I would look at a ritual, little things that we can incorporate in the day that have to do with astrology, in my case, a lot. And ceremonies are more like celebrations that also several people can participate in when you honor some time of year or so. And there are definitely these pillars in the year that all ancestors have been using for ceremony. So that's powerful. And yeah, ritual, as little as when I wake up, I throw my blanket away and I greet the day. So today is Wednesday, it's Mercury Day. So I try also to set my goals with that in that aspect. So communications, finishing marketing, outreach, making phone calls, important phone calls or so. So that's little rituals that I do.
Wow.
So what do you think?
Rashni, want to go ahead?
Well, what comes up for me, especially, yes, the rituals and ceremonies. So when you think about it from a perspective as a human being, and you are waking up, for example, each day you wake up you take a breath. That's the first thing I do. It's just, here it is. I've been presented with another day. And it can sound a little bit hokey, but you know what? Every day is given to you carte blanche, right? And something that didn't get addressed the day before can be addressed today because now you've been given a renewal of energy. So being thankful for the energy that you've been given. So for me, that idea of being thankful, expressing gratitude, affirmation or 2 or 4 or 10, depending on how I'm feeling. Sometimes it's 10, depending on what's happening externally and internally. And then setting an intention for the day, just intending to, who can I draw on? And me, I draw on spirit guides and angels to say, can you help me see? Can you help me clear out this darker energy? And so that's what I do on terms of ritual and ceremony. What about you, Sharon?
I love this. I'm like, ooh, listen to both of you. Oh, yeah, ritual and ceremony have always played a huge, huge part in my life. And I like the distinction
Yeah.
because there's ritual and ceremony that have been passed down to us that we consider personal, that we consider collective. And then those, I just feel it's so important to honor the self initiation of our rituals and ceremonies. Like you both just shared the rituals of your day. Like, what do you feel inspired to do at any given time, knowing there will be those that are consistent? They're like bedrocks. They're those foundational pillars that hold us, especially when life is shifting, changing, and we're shifting and changing, where we're holding on, quite like a lifeline and also an anchor. And then there are those that are gonna subtly show up and whisper and be like, oh, so for me, I've been doing ceremonies since I was a child, and it was guided by nature of like, pick up this. And I didn't know what it was. Do you know what I mean? It was play. And if you watch children, they're very ceremonial, very ritualistic. It would be like, pick up this petal, put this petal in the water, and it wasn't even a voice. It was just something that I was guided to. And so I've carried that forward, to who I am and how I live and work now. And those carry me through seasons of my life, days of my life. And then ceremonies, I feel they're a little more where I'm bringing structure and kind of pre-planning of saying, for example, Mary Magdalene's feast day was earlier this week on the 22nd. And that's when I celebrate, and so I bring more, like you're saying, Roshni, I bring more intention. I bring a little bit more planning because I want to make sure I hold that in the sacredness of my days and weeks.
That's brilliant. And that it is what it is. We are kind of communicating with the energies, with the planets, and if you look at astrology, and using specific power, I would say, power time spaces, for lack of a better word. For like the solstices and the equinoxes, because they're so powerful. It's like, for example, the solstice is the standstill of the sun before it goes from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. So it's like shining a spotlight and then holding the spotlight. So it's like focused energy, and the ancients have used that for forever. And I think that those moments when we use them, it's like extra gasoline that we have to bring the intention, which I think you both made such a good point. That's about intention. It's definitely whether it's a full moon or new moon, to intend to learn new things, or with the full moon get rid of, like, release things or so. That the nature rhythm is supporting us.
What comes up for me at this time, we are women, we're wise, we're in a beautiful time in our lives. As we get older, it's actually a really awesome time. And I know, Sharon, you even alluded to that in one of your posts. I think I think I commented, and then you said there was some restorative voice that comes in, this kind of inner knowing. But not everybody's there yet, right? Some, and men, because they're not women, they're men, they do their own thing. And for me, because of the practicality of our lives, that we have also the 3D version of our life sometimes that needs attention. Not always, not in my world. I pick and choose. But how do we encourage people to bring these components? So they set these pillars for themselves throughout the day, if they haven't done so already. How do people get started with this? Because like for us three, it's just a natural extension of our life's journey, our soul's journey, our vibe, our interests and our passions, and our stage in life. Some people are not there yet. How do we encourage others to bring that forth to their existence?
Good question. I would say to the person, just look at the outside world and see whether you still have trust in this, in the process, in the system that is out there. Why not looking at it and trying to work with specific times of the year, of the month, or with like a own solar return to set new goals? Just experiment with it and lightly offer it, because right now not much is functioning out there, whether it's economics, whether it's politics, whether it's financial, and relationships are struggling also, because we are just so in a transitional phase that right now would probably be a good moment to try different things that are more natural, that are not so artificial. Technology is good to help us, but I think we are giving too much power to technology, and we think we are so insufficient, and we are not. We are really powerful as we are already, even more than AI.
Well said.
Yeah, I would add the capacity to trust what we hear inside. So whether it's we begin our day, or at some point throughout the day we pause and we really close eyes, hand to heart, whatever feels right, breathe and say, what do I feel guided to do right now to honor the ritual of being who I am?
Wow.
And then it can be literally as simple as a breath, or it could be going over to an altar, and lighting a candle, or looking upon a picture of a sacred elder or ancestry. And there was something you said, Stephanie, around when we celebrate these pinnacle moments that have been celebrated for centuries and decades and beyond what we can even know, we can call in all those who have been celebrating those over all this time and space, and feel that support to say, oh, I too can celebrate my life amidst this kind of intergenerational and interconnected energy that will hold me to craft and create my own ways I want to move through life. Because I'll admit, in the beginning of my practice, people really yearned to have an outline of a ceremony given to them, or people were really drawn to that, and that has its place. But there's something so potent, like you both are saying, where you wake up and you each have gestures you do.
Mm-hmm.
There's something when we trust those,
Right,
that our entire life's connection to what we call sacred changes. And going back to what you both said in different ways, in the changing and chaos of these times, that becomes what we can
yes, I think
lean
that's
into and trust. We trust
totally.
ourselves.
And I love how you say, like, okay, so just be aware and then you are guided. Sometimes I want to do something and then I'm like, I find myself doing something totally different. I'm just flowing with it. We cannot always do it, so we have appointments, we have to be places maybe, but I think whenever we can, we should not be in the in the external world that much, and more listen to the inside, especially with all the fake images and fake videos. In the past, we were so impressionable and people could impress us, whether it's the news or whoever sent something that is dramatic. And now I'm more like, okay, is that real? Could that be? Does it make sense? Who would profit of it? We're more skeptical. I think that more people are taking a step back and taking like a bird perspective and looking at it. Why would nature do something like that? So it's more being more asking questions and not being too conform, because in the past we have done it, we have been obedient, and I think it's so important now to listen more to ourselves and also with the people. Like really, I think we can pick up what you say, like the Sharon, with the like the inner, like an inner meter that tells us this person is telling me BS, or this person I can trust. And I think this is more and more coming up with people.
Absolutely. Cultivating, and I was reading it this morning, and it's a common theme throughout all kind of pedagogy around spirituality. And it doesn't matter which religion or non-religion it is, but the idea of stillness is very, very important to be cultivated in a practice of 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes, however much time you have, and you draw into yourself so that you are understanding what is happening around you and what you're observing and not absorbing, what thoughts are coming to mind. Is your ego chirping that day? What is your ego trying to teach you? And this morning it was teaching me, and I said, no, I can't listen to you right now. You're okay. You're fine. I just put, here we go. There we are. There you go. Nice ego. Nice ego.
You know, I think this is great. This is great to have the communication, whether it is with our ego, whether it is with a planet even, or an element. And
Absolutely.
Sharon, you probably know with your ritual work and or ceremonial work, because when I need more discipline, I will have a chat with Saturn. You know, I do this.
Wow.
It sounds crazy, but I think it's powerful. And we all know that I mean, when you take the human body, and I think we had it in one of the past episodes, that the head is Aries, and it goes on. The throat is Taurus. The breast is Cancer, and or the lungs and the chest is Gemini. Then comes breast and stomach for the Cancer. So every sign, it is all in order. The beauty of the cosmic order. And so in the same, we can, like with the breathing and carrying sadness or so, we just do air. We honor the air element, or we do work with our hands and or like breathing techniques or so. We counter the problem with the right remedy, whether it's a planet or an element.
So powerful.
And so simple in a way.
Beautiful.
Can you expand a little bit more? This is so fascinating. So we know that planets rule parts of our bodies, right? So what do you actually physically, is there something you physically say, or you invoke, or you call in, or you invite? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, for physically, I would just use the physical remedy. That means I would definitely get more air flowing, maybe go like for a really brisk hike or for a bike ride, do something that gets movement, because air is movement. Or have a good conversation if I feel stuck in my lungs, if I'm sad, speaking it out, dancing, shouting. I take these Tai Chi and yoga classes in a Korean, very different center. So we do a lot of tapping, and that loosens up a lot, because you have, usually it's stuck energy, and it's simple. And it doesn't have to be really expensive. You don't even have to sign up. I mean, these days you find so much on the internet, like tapping for breathing or so, and then videos will come up that gives you little techniques. So that is for air. And then fire, you can have like a fire ceremony, do like the candle is the easiest, have a bonfire or like a fire pit or so, eat something very spicy. It's addressing it, like really getting the fire going. Doing something totally passionate, like wild dancing, that's also heating up your body. Water, doing something near water, or watch a movie that is like really getting your tears flowing and like is really getting your emotions going, and earth, go out in the garden and dig your hands in the soil, for example. Just little examples that are physically, and they distract us. I think often it's just stuck mental stuff that we're so modern, we're so complacent these days that when I mentioned earlier, Roshni, that when parking at the far end of the parking lot, to walk and then you get exercise, you get fresh air in your lungs, and then go into the store.
Yeah.
And you can always have a card, and if you buy a lot, then you use the card to get your shopping to the car. But it's really what do we want to see as a result? So we have to make sure, do I set the right causes for the result I want to see?
This is full-bodied, fully embodied human being right here, right? Fire, earth, water, air, playing, and same with Sharon.
Yeah, I like the
This
word play.
idea of playing, women especially, we've forgotten. How do you play? How do you play? Do you, if you light a candle while you're brushing your teeth, light a candle while brushing your teeth. It doesn't have to be full on retreat, which are also very nice. But if you don't have the time to do it that moment in your life, light a candle by brushing your teeth and just focus on that, you know, and bring these elements, and like you said, the different elements of play and different earth elements. Like how beautiful is that? Like I don't like gardening, but some days I go out there and I pull weeds, and it's the most satisfying
Oh,
thing I
yes.
have ever done. I guess now I've told the world that, but this goes.
That's helpful.
You know, there was this series that I had shared, and at the beginning, as a ceremony series, each of the times I would just pass out. So, for example, and I was calling in different elements. There was one where we just began passing around a bowl of water. And we would get very still and quiet and just watch each woman and how she chose and was guided and felt to engage with that water. And I would put some rocks and shells and petals, in there, and she'd have some essential oil nearby, and just to, like, oh my God, it's being called right back up again. It was so emotional to watch a woman receive a bowl of water and just breathe and feel. And some woman, would put it over their head, someone bring it to their lips, and it was so powerful. And then again, really simple thing, you pass around a bowl with maybe a little dirt in it and a stone, or a feather when you're working with air.
And yet it's so deep. It's so deep because I mean we're coming out of the womb, out of the water, and water is emotions. And yes, that's.
And I want to go back to what you said, that word obedient. It like helps to just release these shackles of what we presumed it meant to be in relationship with other things. Like we're talking about nature, we're talking about universe here, we're talking about the core elements. And when you realize, like to step out of obedience means we step into a consensual, mutual, relationship with something. And that doesn't mean we're saying like, okay, the earth is going to tell us what to do. It means we are together in this, co-creatively having conversations. We listen, we share, it's so profound. Yeah. And then to witness doing this for themselves, that like magnifies and amplifies it even more, to say, yes, you go
This
all
is so
in.
good. Yeah, what you just said, Sharon, was like really, that's eye level. That's collaborating with the elements, with nature, with rhythms. And that's what astrology is in the end. It's basically, it's rhythms. Planets come back to their original position, or like in your personal birth chart, the sun comes back every year to the same degree, and that's really what it is. And that's just nature, eye level. Same. We're part of it.
The idea, did you have a name for the ceremony, Sharon, with the water? Was there like
I think it was part of my wombing series, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. And it is emotional because we all need different things at different times. and elements teach us to play with different things at different times. You can't play with all 4 elements all at once. Perhaps you can. Some of us don't have the time. Some of us have the ability to be and listening to what you're attracted to at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you don't always have to play with fire, play with water if you're called to it. I know I know my husband himself, he's always called to water. He always wants to look at water, be near it, watch it, and and he's very soothed by it.
Yes.
My son is soothed by the earth, like getting stuck in mud and sticks and stones, and having all these different things around these elements that come in and out of the house. It's sticks and stone for boys, right? And for me, it's fire. Saging my house, incense, opening the windows, bringing that intention to bring any heavy energy and lifting it out of the house by opening the window. So playing with air. So fire and air, I play with a lot.
Yeah,
And so there's no right or wrong way. It's also being
that is
called
true.
to
Exactly. It's very
what you
personal.
want and what
Yeah.
you're feeling at that time, like following your instincts and your wildness, if there's a lack of a better word, just to push through and say, what can I play
Yeah.
with today? What
And
do I
there,
feel?
exactly. And the little totems also,
Mm.
let's say you have an important appointment and you're having the blues, you're just feeling a little melancholic, and then you can just take something that reminds you on like cheerful fire that gives you the like spirit or so. Then we take a gemstone, maybe like a fiery red gemstone, or affirmations that we write on a piece of paper that we put in our back pocket, and then we go into an, I don't know, interview or meeting, and then it does help. It does help having this. And there are different days that we are not at our best, maybe, and that's when we can do like a personal ritual, like finding out, okay, where's my weakness in my personal birth chart, and there you can take, I don't know, your birthday or whatever power day, and reinforce that missing element that you may have in your chart. But just finding these little ways of like brain, like how can I'm looking for like crutches. I would say maybe spiritual crutches for that day, because we are not strong at that day, and you want to be super strong, but that day is just not your day. And that's how we can turn things around. And if we have the luxury, we can plan always. We can make sure the moon is in a good sign and not void of course or so, which doesn't make any aspects to other planets when it's changing signs. So we can look ahead, but sometimes if we cannot, we just have our little remedies like a mantra or any like, yeah, previous ritual for that day.
That's making me think of, in our current times, there's so many ways that we are working to ease into our wholeness, ease into this, like you said, Rashni, this full embodiment, this full spectrum of who we are.
Love that.
And we don't feel all of it every day, like you
Yeah.
just said. And so here we are calling in, for example, and more of the mental health realm that might be called internal family systems, or from an astrological perspective. Here we are bringing in our full birth chart, from all the planets. And so when we allow this play, there was this astrologist I worked with, and when she was talking to me about some of the really intense dynamics in my chart, and helping me to like see, how do we walk in partnership with all these parts? How do we walk in partnership with the cheerful fire, but also the raging fire, which seem like they can't, you know what I mean? They cannot go in
Yes.
the same pocket at the same time. And yet they can,
Yes, there's always.
And so this allows us to touch all those different aspects. And the term I remember she used, and I don't remember the exact houses and placements of whatnot, but she said, like, you cannot work on this quality without, do you know what I mean? You don't want to repress that other quality, and you can't work on that one if you're going to try to, do you know what I mean? Condemn and,
Yes.
shun that one. And so just as you were saying that, I was just thinking of that beautiful mosaic of how at any given time, when we're not feeling in our fullness or feeling like we can access our full potential and full power, we get to, through ritual and play, call in like, "Ooh, I ain't feeling my power today. Come on, bring that fire with me," while not, you know what I mean, destroying
Yes.
the water, while not destroying the earth, while not, you know what I mean, destroying the
Yeah.
air, and realize they're meant to live together.
Yeah, that is so
Inside
true.
of
Then
us.
there's
I
there's no
love that.
child.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Rashni.
Just the idea, I just got this picture of somebody just reclaiming parts for themselves when they feel discombobulated.
Yeah,
And
nice.
right.
That's
And as Sharon was explaining, and you're explaining as well, you bring in these components to wellness, to self-care, to self-love. What does that look like? What does that look like for you on every given day? What does that look like for you in that second? What does that look like for you in that minute? Does it look like you need to speak up with boundaries? Does it mean you need to stay silent? Does it mean you need to pray? Does it mean you need a ritual when you get home? I was downtown yesterday and I was basically brushing my aura off because it's downtown and you're out with the masses and it's not easy for an empath to do that. So, how do you reclaim that energy back to yourself? And these things can be cultivated over time through your own even social and familiar conditioning. Like incense was burned in my house and in ceremony in South Asian culture, and I've carried that into our home. I just don't have all the Indian sweets with me because, well, they're Indian sweets, they're heavy on the body. They're not very loving on the body. But the point is just you're calling everything in. This is huge. I'm getting goosebumps
the
all the way down.
completion, exactly. Rounding it all off.
Yes.
And if we don't get the original spice, we can always improvise with something similar that fills that gap.
Yes.
It's just the intention. It goes back to the intention, really. And with everything, I mean, look at, for example, Saturn. I was just listening to a podcast. Her name is Ellen King, I think, and she talks a little bit about Saturn, and also she worked with Hollywood as a screen artist or so. Highly interesting. But there's some that say like Saturn radiates like bad vibes, and Saturn, Satan, and all this. I think whatever we take, what is the intention behind it? So AI, I use it. I now even generate pictures and images with AI. Super helpful. You just say what you want and you do it. But then what are we doing it for? To create a beautiful flyer, or to fake some dramatic stories and sell it to the people, to frighten them, to keep them in fear so I can control them. And that's what the whole Aquarian energy is all about. That what is our intent? And we can use ritual also for doing bad stuff. And so I think the pure mind and the ethical and moral values, that's the most important thing that we have, and also have to instill in everybody, in the youth and kids and future generations and everybody involved.
Wow. Powerful.
Yeah, I remember when I first got into studying shamanism and my apprenticeship, that there were aspects of it that were very much, or even going further back, when I was a teenager, I remember hearing about black magic, or, and that really was how I first heard about ritual. I think was how there was an assumption that others were doing ritual to hurt other people. And that, that created a whole energy in me that took years to dismantle, since I was so drawn to ceremony and ritual, but in a really different way, from a very different place in my heart. And for me, it is a place of ritual and ceremony are for connection, not separation. And
Oh, good.
so I think that is important, because also ceremony and ritual, depending on if you come and, from your own past religion, if it was a painful, projection upon you where there was a lot of have to, should, shoulds, needs to. If you don't, you're going to be, struck down
Punished.
by lightning. Exactly. You're going to go to hell, the devil, etc. That there's something even about reclaiming ceremony and ritual from our pure hearts and pure intent,
Oh, this
from
is
like
good.
moving out of obedience to saying, no, this is our path to reclaiming the beauty of our lives and our connections,
Yeah,
and
I
our
think
desire to
reading it.
propel goodness and true power to help all of humanity.
Yeah.
So this is like bringing it all back, and we can call it whatever we want, whether it's magic, white magic, black magic. Those words are fascinating from a more linguistic perspective.
Yeah.
But how can we, really reclaim this to express that we do this because we care about humanity, the planet, and all the plants, creatures upon it.
Exactly. I think innately we do definitely do that. And the same with astrology. That's what Roshni and I said earlier also, that it is taken away from the people because it is powerful. You can look ahead, you see like what are the people, what is the characteristic of this person? How can I heal the person? Medical astrology. I mean, the doctors had to know about astrology in the past. So when you ridicule it and say like, oh, it's just humbug and whatever, then people don't touch it because they don't want to be ridiculed. But it's so powerful, and as you say, with a pure heart, if you just use it for betterment, for repair, for healing, that's the right use for it.
Ooh, what came up for me when you were speaking, both of you were speaking, is that consistent and coherent connection, which these pieces will always sustain for you, the connection to yourself, right? And this is, again, not to be misconstrued as selfishness, but you are building a arsenal of tools and gifts in order to see outside the box that society has put you in, and also your belief systems, your familial systems, ancestral generational systems. You're able to see outside of yourself when you are pulling in these components, and it's the most loving thing that anyone can do, because once you start connecting to yourself, as Sharon said and has said before as well, you're walking yourself home, which allows you to walk others home.
That is true. Yes, absolutely. How can we help others if we're like broken and not even knowing ourselves, living somebody else's description?
Yes, just the pieces, putting those pieces together, and we are allowed, giving ourselves permission to do this without judgment, without fear, without any without any kind of negative energy. It will show up because, yes, your ego might be afraid, right? But then that's when you say, good ego, thank you, put it aside on the shelf, and you keep going, right? Bring in all the pieces, bring in those loving pieces, because over time, it actually, your body feels that consistency and will seek it.
Oh, that's a good one also.
Right? It'll just always wants that stasis. It wants to stay there so that you can sustain it for yourself and then help others along the way.
Yes, so true. And that's what you say, like consistent, like ritual. And then every once in a while we have these pillars where we do a ceremony with people to reinforce it. But I think we all need to have healthy rituals in our own lives to maintain a spiritual hygiene.
Yeah, this is so eloquent. It just feels so eloquent. And what's popping into my mind as a question I'd love to hear from both of you: how do we work with shadow in ritual and ceremony? How can we bring that deep shadow material in, whether it's astrologically, whether it's from more of a holistic wellness perspective? Like, what pops to mind with that?
Well, I would say definitely not suppressing it. What Roshni said, putting it lovingly on a shelf for now. I think we all run around with some kind of ballast or shadow or whatever. And I think we can find ways I think Ram Dass mentioned he had one, I forgot what he said, but everybody has to learn to live with their little shadow. And and I think if we don't have bad intentions, let's say one person is always late, another person has a craving for sweets and sugar, another is smoking, and another eats like really thick butter on bread, and other, I don't know, whatever, actually,
I used to
whatever,
do that.
you fill the gap. But we all have this, and we say like, okay, I live with that. I have this tick, like a tick or whatever in life, and I live with it. I'm making sure I don't hurt anyone. I'm not, if I'm judgmental, maybe I have my self-talk in my head or so. If I'm like too curious, everything has to be curbed so we don't interfere with other spaces. I think everybody has their own little baggage. As long as we don't interfere and let everybody be with their little tick and their little baggage, then without hurting each other, then I think we are all fine, because we're not here perfect yet.
Not yet. There's perfection and imperfection, right? And what came to me was I remember my son when he started walking and he saw his shadow on the sidewalk. He was playing with it. It's the cutest thing. What is that? What is that? Mommy, can you catch it? Mommy, can you do it? Can you play with it with me? Sure, sure, sure. I remember that, and children do that so willingly and so beautifully and peacefully because it's a part of who they are.
So true. Yeah.
Right? It's connected. Your shadow is part of who you are, and you can make friends with it. That doesn't mean you have to be instinctual and act upon the shadow all the time, because it may not, the external results probably not so good, but, play with it. It's a part of who you
Yeah.
are. If you're standing in a shadow, you see your own shadow. It's never disconnected from you.
Wow. And actually the Aborigines, they have a saying, they say like, look to the sky and you will not see the shadow. I have a CD that
Oh, wow.
they use that. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
That's
so
what came
cool.
to mind.
Yeah, I love, because before you said that, I was thinking, I remember this beautiful soul sister in one of my mentorship programs had brought in a picture and sent it to me of her shadow. And it was so gorgeous because it was like on
Wow.
the ocean, I mean, she was walking on the beach. And so I was even just thinking as you were speaking, like, oh, may we make a place on our altar to literally have, that image of our shadow, to know that too is well held by this sanctity that we're laying out, this foundation, and that it's cared for. It's cared
Oh,
for.
yeah.
So that
Maybe
it's not
giving it
like
a voice so he will not
hungry.
cause damage.
Yeah, I mean, I love coming up with ceremonies and rituals. I'm always making them all the time. So I'm like, oh, I want to go take a picture of my shadow, and in a way allow it to feel held and blessed by all the other good things that we're doing to bless the wholeness in us, So yeah,
Yeah,
let's
that's a
make
good one,
sure
really.
we keep it in our ceremonies and rituals so it doesn't go starving and hungry and.
That's exactly the point.
Ooh,
Give it
so good.
space. Yeah, I love that. That's a good one.
That's
That
so
does
good.
wreak havoc.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. The idea of coming together for ceremony brings up some shadows for me, because the intentions, and especially feeling what's happening, being an empath and feeling what's happening around me energetically, and it's not aligning with the actual theme of the ceremony, was a big thing for me. I'm like, well, here's a ceremony to bless, for example, a business, but then the people who are blessing the business are sharks.
Oh, gotcha.
Like there was a little bit of this duality that if you are going to be lovingly intentional in a ceremony, your energy should align with that, and so should your actions. So does that call for perfection? No, but ceremony should also bring forth what you need to work on. And to crack open, perhaps, well, if you're blessing your building, for example, wherever you're going to do business, and what do? They cut the ribbon,
Oh, right.
and then they put champagne. Well, if you are going to do that, then keep that loving intention for your business, but don't step on people when you are conducting your business affairs, right? So I found that a little,
Yeah.
that's what came up for me. I don't know what you guys.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, because in astrology you have something that's called electional chart. So you elect a day to get married, to open a business, to
Sure.
inaugurate something. So that you look for like beneficial placements. So you want to have Jupiter for growth, and
Yes.
Saturn probably also, because Saturn is all about business and rules the 10th house of business and career. So that is so you want to set the chart that it is favorable. And I would recommend doing that for sure. But as you say, that maybe some people are not aware of it and they just open a business. I think still, if you're so intentional and you say like, I want this to be like a real thriving business, and I want to like maybe it involves customers, maybe it is just tech in like a tech business, maybe it's just service, or maybe it's a product butter, like what is it called, brick and butter business. So whatever it is, if your whole heart is in it, I think that we can override the bad intentions of some participants that are in the inauguration ceremony. I think that even if you are smaller in quantity and you hold pure intentions, like women praying for a sick child or so, that you can definitely make a difference and go against bad intentions, that you override them. Maybe I'm naive.
Yeah, this is a really deep one, isn't it? It's a really deep one. And what comes to mind, I couldn't help but really, words always jump out at me when you said shark, like shark. Like in nature, yeah, as human beings, we have a lot of judgments about sharks.
Yeah.
And shark is an aspect of, the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
So many will hear as a ceremonialist, I think what many know me as is one who really encourages play, lightheartedness, curiosity, and wonder in ritual and ceremony. And I don't take ceremony lightly. Actually, it's very deep. It's very intense, and it's very powerful. And so even when I saw and heard of that, like, how would I include the energy of shark? Meaning, like, acknowledge it's going to be there. Acknowledge there's this aspect of human nature when, if someone is going into ceremony without first fully self-reflecting on their intention and why they're doing this and their purpose, there's going to be unmet material floating around.
Yeah.
And how do we make sure, like, the shark is in its placement if we're the ones like holding the space for the ceremony? Do you know what I mean? To make sure that we acknowledge there's gonna be wishy,
make the shark
you know what I mean?
I would say make the
make
shark
sure
work for you.
we see it's there, and we know it's there, and we can see it coming out of the corner of our eye, and stay in our deepest powerful intention without letting it sway us. So that was a couple of things. And then the other piece that was starting to come in is, for example, grief rituals are so precious to me, and I've done them for years. And you don't hold back in a grief ritual, especially women and other indigenous cultures. They are like tearing their hair out. They're weeping. They're throwing themselves on the ground. And what is it like to make sure within ceremony there's a place for that part, that we're acknowledging how painful, how disruptive, how like heart-wrenching it is when someone isn't coming forward with the purest intent, and they haven't yet. Do you know what I mean? Acknowledge the shark lives in them, and they're being obedient to all the projections of what shark is, versus like coming into their own reclaiming of what healthy shark could
Yes,
be. Do you know what I
exactly. And you
mean?
do
And
it
like, so we wail and we scream and we say, ah,
in a
you know,
safe
the pain
space.
of the past and what
Exactly. And you
people
do
have
this
done.
in a safe container so you don't do it in a different location where it's not safe. Or so that's a good one. That's a good one. So you're being held in the ceremony, you let it out, and yeah, but going back to the shadow. So it all has its place, and we just have to be mindful that we don't hurt anyone. And this is best, really letting it all out.
Yes, and you know, the idea of, again, being in human nature, the universe expresses itself in different ways, and there are, you know, in this way, and if you are a person of faith, then you can say God, or but just in the universe, we're all fragments of that, and it's expressing itself in different ways. And what's important to recognize is there's no right or wrong in that. There are implications for making not so good decisions and good decisions when, especially, for example, we're looking at business practices. But my point is that there is an overarching loving peace that comes in when we all recognize that we are fragments of that, and that this is the universe expressing itself in this way and in that way, and in an up way or in a not so up way, positive way. And so we have to give each other, a ceremony can envelop that, our fragments together, and build a container where everyone is feeling held and everyone is feeling heard and respected. And so I
And
just
everybody is coming with a purpose too.
there's a purpose, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then if you take then the power times in the year, like the equinoxes and the solstices, that you know, okay, I want to grow something, then you pick a certain, I don't know, new moon. And if you want to get release something, then in a full moon. So then you do this with your intention. Everybody is coming with their purpose also, and you're creating like a beautiful alchemy there.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And um, I know where our time is always goes by so fast. Can we talk about a little bit more about altars and uh, what do people what do people need to know just generally about building an altar, or does the altar serve? Can you give me, I
I
needed
would say it's
clarification on it. I've kind
yeah,
of lost I've always tried to build an altar, and I've never
yeah.
authentically built one that I really like. And then I'm like,
Uh,
why can't I'm
I
not
think
able
they
to build an
change.
altar.
I think they change too because our needs change and what we are looking for. So, like Sharon mentioned earlier, feathers, for example. So if we want to get more like talkative and we want to get the voice out and we want to speak up, then we put feathers and rocks and whatever we feel like strength and support and a good structure. I would put rocks, water for emotions, so work with elements, and pictures of planets and what Sharon mentioned earlier, also like deceased elders that we respect or people that we want to commemorate or so
Okay.
that's, and I would say that's a work in progress also. For a long time you need something special, like Mayan even books or cards or oracle cards or what, and then next time, I don't know, you need something like art, some incense should be there also to clear the air. But I
Sure.
think it's definitely a movable thing, like a living thing in action.
Oh, thank you for saying, oh, I feel so good. I'm like, why is my altar constantly shifting with its objects? Why don't I like that now? And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll recycle that and I'll put this up. No, I don't like that. Like next day, I'm like, no, that doesn't work either.
Yeah, the piece I'd love to add, because altars is such my thing. And I remember it was
Yes.
years ago, and I was going through one of those mama moments where I felt like I have 3 boys, and I just felt like they couldn't appreciate me or see me. And I remember my husband turned to me, and I didn't feel like I was passing down. That's what it was. I didn't feel like I was tangibly passing down what mattered most to me. And my husband turned to me, he goes, "Are you kidding me? Our whole house is a living altar, and your boys are absorbing that in everything they do." And so I literally, I'm just
Oh,
looking out over my desk, and
that's so
I have little altars. And for me, what it means is going back to
beautiful.
almost the beginning, it means I'm intentionally placing things down.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh God. Oh, you nailed
intentionally
it right there, sister.
putting
Oh,
something with intention
yeah.
and care. And like, if I could flip my camera, I'd show you, like, there's a lamp, there's a plant, there's a picture of my
Yeah.
son,
Same here.
and then I have other
All, yes,
altars
little
that are
zone.
much more, like, truly, they're all around my house. And I think one of the sweetest ways to understand altars is to go out in nature and look for sacred geometry, like look for
Ooh,
patterns,
that's a good
look
one.
for the ways things grow, because that's
Yes.
nature's altars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when
Oh,
we learn from that, it gives us a lot of permission to then, orchestrate placement, like placement of beauty around us, of what really speaks to us for how we harmonize in ourselves, but also in our environment. And then another way, because it can be really nice to look to other traditions. There are so many, so in my shamanic training, it was about the elements. So we had, north, south, east, west, we had an element in each. And then the center point was something that really was representative of what we felt in connection to our soul. And then, you would open that sweet little altar. It was usually carried in a little medicine bag. You'd open it up each
yes.
morning, lay it down with prayer and intention, and calling in each of the directions. And then you would sit before it to kind of, imbue yourself with what would be most important for me to know today as I move into this day, like what from this altar will help and support me. And there's lots of, like, also from childhood, I come from a really deep Roman Catholic tradition, and they have so much with altars. And I think it's a fun field trip, like to intentionally go out and seek altars, both from religions, other spiritual traditions, from nature, from our own selves, and then really let that be an area of just total, like you said, living wonder. Like, let it be a daily living wonder of how we intentionally create in our own homes.
I think that's our red line. The word intention is just paramount in our talk today, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Awareness and
Absolutely.
intention. That's ritual and ceremony, right?
Yes, absolutely. I like that we've touched upon, the astrological elements, the practical elements, the shamanic and familial elements, motherhood elements. All of these are such a beautiful tapestry around ritual and ceremony. And it doesn't have to be anything that is a huge inconvenience or a huge extension of yourself. It can be something as loving as placing a picture, something as loving as writing an affirmation, something as loving as lighting one candle, or in my case, lighting incense 12 times around the house, trying to clear energy, whatever speaks to you, right? Listening and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, right? That is imbued in everything that we're doing. So it is feeling good to us.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a gorgeous closure. I feel like you just encapsulated that perfectly.
So maybe we just get updated on what we are doing in our lives, so people can know also. Who wants to start sharing? I think yours is coming up in September, right?
Yes, so I'm getting ready. I'm starting to do the countdown. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be in Croatia in 4 weeks or 5 weeks.
Wow.
So I'll be in Croatia and Poland at the beginning of September. The first week of September is a women's spiritual festival. It's called Tidal Flow. women's festival. And it's created for women, by women, to really honor this theme of the multifaceted woman and how we, in these times, come home to that in ourselves.
Ooh,
Right on. Yes. I'm
good.
curious to see pictures and hear everything when you come back. We have to do a circle.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
And
What are you
Roshni-
working on, Stephanie?
Oh, I have a little switch that means we work on masculine with Gerald, who was on the May
Oh,
podcast.
yes, I saw that.
Yes, so we're
Yes.
looking at the male aspects in women and men. So that's an
Yes.
exciting 2-day workshop in a Puerto Morelos area. So
Yes.
anyone who wants to travel there or locals that are on the spot. So that's a prototype, and then we want to do some like a full retreat in November possibly. And so I will report back on that. That would be
Yeah, that's
exciting.
so interesting. Yeah, Gerald was a really interesting guest and has a lot to share, and his journey is so like as it unfolds, he's just so
Yeah.
authentic about it. So it's
Totally, yes.
exciting. Please post on that as well, because
Yes,
we'd love
I
to
sure
hear.
will. And he's great to work with also like really, he's an Aries.
Yes,
Things fall into place quickly and very efficiently. So that's super,
I
super
love that. I
enjoyable.
love that you say that. Well, he's an Aries, and yeah,
Oh.
that
Yeah.
yep, and everything is just
Mhm. And how about you, Roshni?
I am closing season 1 and launching season 2 of my podcast. And I'll just say it openly. I'd love for both of you to be on. Perhaps all 3 of us can podcast together,
Ooh,
because we have such a great, that'd actually be a really cool synergy, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm moving into season 2 and focusing on living and encouraging through my guests and the synergy that's co-created, there's how to live more in lightness of being, the lightness of who we are, as we step forward into a more of an ascended path on the planet. And also continuing writing. I love tapping into my feminine energy through my writing, either online or just working with my clients as well through miracle writing. And that's what I'm looking forward to so far.
Yeah.
As it unfolds, I think things are always shown to me, which is good. And but definitely looking forward to the season 2.
As a Virgo fired by Mercury, writing is perfect for you.
Right? See, that's why I love you. Like Virgo, yep, check. What are you, Sharon? What's your star sign?
Aries.
There you go. Oh, woman.
Lots and lots
Getting
of
ahead.
Aries.
Lots and lots of Aries.
Everything literally is in Aries except Scorpio is my rising.
Mhm.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful
thank you
round.
both.
So
Yes.
yeah, I will post the recording and share the links to both of you, and then put all the like whatever we have. Maybe you can refresh me on the women's retreat in Croatia and then your podcast, Roshni, that I put it in
Sure.
the description. So it's
Certainly.
Sure. That
Yeah.
sounds good. Yeah,
excellent.
that's really
Wonderful.
good. Thank you.
Girls, it was
Okay.
nutritious
Such a
as always.
pleasure.
Nutritious thing is so nutritious.
Yes.
Spiritually nutritious. And okay, danke.
From each other.
Yes, danke schön.
Danke schön.
Alrighty. Bye.